And our webinar is live. Hello, everyone. I see our attendees, our audience trickling in, which is always really pleasant. I say this at the beginning of almost every Zoom event that we do, but I'm consistently nervous that Zoom will change its settings and something will be different and I'll click a wrong button and bad things will happen, but not today, not for this behind the scenes, not for any behind the scenes. Thank you all for coming so much to our latest behind the scenes edition focusing on Ocean Filibuster. I am Sarah Schofield-Manser. I am the A.R.T's Assistant Director of Special Events and Partnerships. I take the she series of pronouns. I am a white woman with shoulder-length dark brown hair. I pulled back into a messy bun. I'm wearing a kind of denim button-up shirt today, and I've got my trusty headphones in to make sure that I can hear all of our fantastic panelists as best as I can. I'd like to take a moment really quickly and acknowledge that I'm calling in from the unceded territory of the Wabanaki, Pentucket, Pennacook, and Massachusetts people, and that the land that the Loeb Drama Center and Oberon occupy is the unceded territory of the Massachusetts people as well. And I've got a few Zoom housekeeping things to sort of bring up with everyone. The first is that you will notice that the chat is disabled, so you will not be able to chat with me or our fantastic panelists using the chat feature. However, we will be saving the last 10 to 15 minutes of the program for audience Q&A, and we want to hear from you. So if you have any questions for our friends at any time during the program, please submit it using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You'll note that it's different from the chat feature, so use that Q&A feature for me. One other thing is, if you'd like to follow along with live subtitles, you can turn them on by clicking the icon at the bottom of your screen. 3 dots, it says more. Click that and it should give you an option to see a subtitle or live transcript. It's not perfect, it's auto-generated from Zoom, but if you'd like to follow along with subtitles, it's pretty accurate and very helpful. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to read our virtual and in-person events audience compact statement. And that is something we say that A.R.T is unequivocally opposed to hate, and it centers anti-racism as a core value. We expect everyone in the A.R.T community, including our audiences, to uphold these values, and as such, we will not tolerate anti-Blackness or racism of any kind in our buildings, nor at our online events. We aim to create an environment that is uninhabitable to racism and discrimination, where all BIPOC staff, artists, volunteers, audience, and community are seen, heard, valued, and provided the opportunity to thrive. This work is only possible when we do it together, so thank you for being our partner in it. Thank you everyone for being here tonight at Behind the Scenes. I don't want to occupy any more time. Without further ado, I would love to invite our fantastic panelists to turn on their cameras and join me on screen. I see some, there we go. Hi, Lisa, fantastic. And Katie, Jen, hello. And we've got one more coming in, I hope. There, last but certainly not least, fantastic Sxip. All right, thank you all for joining me. I'm gonna leave and I'll be behind the scenes if you need anything, and I will see you all later on for the Q&A.
Thanks, Sarah.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa D'Amour. I use the she series of pronouns. I am a white woman with long brown hair, turquoise reading glasses, and I'm wearing a blue t-shirt that says 504 Soul is Waterproof. I'm co-artistic director of Pearl D'Amour, along with Katie Pearl, and the playwright for Ocean Filibuster. I'm also a playwright. I've worked in theaters such as Art Spot Productions in New Orleans and Playwrights Horizons in New York. I'm really excited to be here. I'm calling in from Inwood, the Inwood neighborhood in New York, the unceded lands of the Munsee Lenape. And I also live in New Orleans, Bulbancha, the land of many tongues, the unceded lands of the Homa and the Choctaw. And I'm now going to ask my absolutely gorgeous collaborators to introduce themselves. And as you all do, I'm wondering if you could answer the age-old question, which is octopus versus whales. And I think I'm going to say octopus because from what I understand, they think with their whole body. So I'm going to toss this over to Katie.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Pearl. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also a white woman. I have curly dark hair and I'm wearing a black long sleeve shirt. I'm calling in from Middletown, Connecticut, which is the Wangunk, the land of the Wangunk tribe right on the Connecticut River. And I am the director of Ocean Filibuster and co-creator with Lisa. Lisa's 23-year collaborator. Pearl Damour's been around since 1997, I think is what we say, 1996. Okay, so the age-old question, I was also going to say octopus, but for the sake of interest, I'm going to say whales because they're big and they are wise and they live in pods. Like relationships are really important to them. So I think that gives them an edge in that pairing. Jen?
Hi, my name's Jen Kidwell. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a performer in Ocean Filibuster. I'm calling in from West Philly. We call Best Philly. That's unceded Lenape land in the Illadelph or the Philadelph. That feels not that kind, but you know. Oh, I'm a Black person. I'm wearing a beaded necklace that is red and white beads with blue sea glass beads that I came by in Benin, in the country of Benin, in the part of Benin that is dedicated to water deities. So this is a protection that was offered to me in exchange for some money, but from the community there that is in touch with the sea. And I refuse to choose between octopus and whale. I feel like Lisa Damour has written a piece in which like we just understand that whales are octopi and octopi are whales. I will say that whale songs make me cry, and octopi make me feel really humble because I don't think that I could get myself out of a jar if I got put in one. And I'll send it over to Sxip.
Hello, I'm Sxip Shirey. I am he, him. I am wearing a black shirt. I am white. I'm wearing some black rimmed glasses. I have a big kind of poofy bunch of white hair. I have some black headphones. I have a kind of a beard that is also white. I'm white all around. I'm sitting in my parents' house in Appalachia. I believe that several tribes have been unseated from this land, including the Shawnee. When I run in the forest, I feel their presence. That is a true fact for me. I have some interesting stories about that, which we won't say. I missed the question, but apparently I was supposed to choose between being a whale or octopus. And I'm just thinking of that image of the octopus seizing the whale, and they're having a fight, or is that a squid? I'm not sure. I can't choose either, Lisa. Oh yeah, and I'm a composer and I'm a sound designer, and I've been working with these Lisa and Katie for many years, and I have I think a pretty deep artistic relationship with them, and I love them as people as well.
Thank you so much, Sxip, Katie, and Jen. So we are going to move quickly into a very short video sample for you all that we made very recently. And I'd love to set that up by just telling you quickly the frame for Ocean Filibuster, which we've been working on for many years, and we're going to be premiering at A.R.T. at some point in the future. So in Ocean Filibuster, you enter the theater and you find yourself in a future global Senate chamber. It's 2051 or later, and we are deep in the climate crisis. You meet a Senate leader, played by Jen Kidwell, called Mr. Majority, and he calls us to order and proposes a bill that will end the ocean as we know it. The ocean is out of control. The lines of states and countries have been redrawn because of sea level rise. And he is working with world-class scientists to create something called the new 7 seas, which is displacing much of the water of the current oceans into caverns under the earth and into outer space, and creating 7 manageable and marketable bodies of water. He speaks and sings his heart out about this bill and how awesome it's going to be, John Ashcroft style, Wings of Glory, about his plan. And this is where we are going to pick up with this next clip, which is some experiments that we did recently over Zoom. And you're going to see Jen Kidwell in their apartment and playing both Mr. Majority and the person that you are about to meet next. So Katie, you think that lays it out? I think we can go for it and
I
show
think
this
that's
brief
good.
clip.
Sarah, go ahead and play the video.
Great.
This concludes my opening statement in the matter of the End of Ocean Bill. We now open the floor for debate and turn to our list of speakers. Wait a minute. This is not, excuse, Sergeant! Sergeant! Hello. Can you see me? Fantastic. Thank you for the floor, Mr. Majority, and for laying out the bill so clearly without a smidgen of manipulation. I roll. And I'm grateful to have this time to speak on my behalf. And yes, when I say my, I do mean my, because I am the ocean. No, I'm not here on behalf of the ocean. I'm not standing in for the ocean. I am the ocean. And I am so grateful to Senator Lindy Lefty Left-A-Lot for granting me her spot on the docket today so that I can share my perspective about this bill. And you say, what do you mean? You're a person. The ocean isn't a person. And there is a lot to talk about there. But let's just remember that the human body is about 60% water. And the salinity of human blood is the same as the salinity of me the moment I spit you out onto my shore as a microscopic fishy salamandry type thing.
So that was just a little taste of the beginning of the show, and the ocean shows up. And as Lisa mentioned, this little bit that we just showed you is something that we just worked on recently over Zoom. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. But I guess one of the things we wanted to reflect on with you all tonight is the length of time we've been working on this show, which is, probably, I don't know, 3 years or so, 4 years maybe, but it's gone through a lot of phases of development. And so, for example, the first phase, like when Lisa and I were approached about making a show, the Harvard University Center for the Environment, HUSE, which is run by a scientist named Dan Schrag, approached the A.R.T and was like, let's get these stories that are happening in our labs out to the people. Like, let's get some theater artists to tell these stories. And so the first thing Lisa and I did when we were trying to figure out what this piece was going to be about is we wanted to go talk to these scientists at HUSE. And so early on, we had a lunch with like 8 different scientists. We were sitting around the table talking, and Lisa and I were like, well, if our piece could communicate anything, what would you want to tell people about the ocean? Like, what's important for you to tell people? And they kind of looked around at each other and they were like, well, and then one of them went, I don't know, wonder. And we were so taken by that moment that these people who contained so much information, what they really cared about was awakening in people who didn't get to spend time under the water seeing these incredible things, or like thinking about the mammoth power of the ocean or the interconnectivity of everything that they see every day in their labs, that causes them wonder. How do we make a show that wakes up wonder in other people?
I also think that wonder is just a way of connecting. And I think we were really interested in how do we connect an audience to something that is as big and literally unknown as the ocean? Because we've only explored about 10% of the ocean. Scientists know a lot more than us, but there's still so much to be explored. And so we took a lot of field trips with scientists, and one was going to the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, where our friend Dr. Larry Pratt, who's an oceanographer who studies sea circulation, introduced us to some ocean acoustics experts, because we knew early on, we had like a glimmer, an intuition that sound was going to be a really important part of this piece. And we were obsessed with how sound travels underwater through, in some ways, through things called the SOFAR channel, which is a layer of the ocean where sound can travel hundreds, if not thousands of miles. And so, you know, Larry brought us into this kind of perfect secret feeling wooden paneled office where we met these acoustics experts who taught us a bunch of things and also told us that their work was of use for Navy intelligence efforts. And I swear I heard the word classified used in there somewhere. So I'm just really, really grateful for the information and the intrigue, and to be able to have the time, thanks to the support of A.R.T, to have that early dreaming, learning, research phase.
Yeah. And then, Lisa, at some point early on, we hit upon this idea of a filibuster, because one of the things we were hearing from the scientists is that the climate is affecting the earth in the way it's affecting the earth, but humans are only feeling a certain amount of it because the ocean is taking so much of the
And we thought, like, what would it mean for the ocean to kind of stand up and speak and speak and speak and speak and speak and speak until it was heard?
Yeah.
And so we latched on to this idea.
The filibuster. And, you know, Lisa and I met in Austin, Texas. That's where we first started working together. And Wendy Davis in the Texas Senate staged a filibuster. What year was that?
I can't remember.
2016?
Maybe
about
I think even
reproductive
earlier.
rights. Yeah, and we were so inspired by seeing her do it. So we thought, okay, well, let's take all this information, all this writing that Lisa was starting to do, all this research, and just put it in one document and just read it out loud. And like,
yeah, and we each took turns, and it was great for us to embody all that language, and reading it nonstop really, it helped us like feel the sense of urgency and a kind of pleading, which is really what we felt the ocean was doing, like pleading with us to be experienced for what it is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I think, you know, at our next phase was bringing on collaborators, which is maybe what we're gonna kind of give a peek into our next phase of workshop.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We brought on Sxip to compose the songs. We asked Jen to come on and hold these figures and their body as a performer. And we had a workshop that was in person at Abrams Art Center in New York City in the winter of 2018. And in that workshop, we were focusing really on on your music, on Jen's performance. It was the first time Jen was sort of holding all this script at one time. And so, Sarah, if you could play that video from Abrams, that would be great. Oh, and sorry, before you do, let me just say, we're about to hear Mr. Majority kind of singing about his passion.
It's the John Ashcroft moment.
It's the John Ashcroft moment. Okay, we'll stop there.
Have you gone rock climbing on the Great Barrier Reef? Bicycle the length of the scenic Florida Cuba Trail? Take the express train all the way from Seattle to Tokyo? From the country called Pacific to the mountain range Bermuda, there is a place for you and me to be. From the land of the Atlantic to Lake Mariana Trench, this land was made by you and me. And you say, I.
Great. So there's a little glimpse into the spectacle of Mr. Majority, and so Jen, now our guests have seen you playing both of these characters, and I'm wondering if you could just talk to us a little bit about your process and experience of holding these characters in your body and of exploring them.
Sure. It's funny, Lisa. I feel I borrowed a little bit out of your playbook because I'm teaching some students at Bryn Mawr a solo performance class, and I was like, here's a question: can humans change? Which I think is embedded in the piece. And I said, just start writing something and perform through it and do both sides of the argument. Just like not about your opinion, but just as an exercise. Because I think that there's something, so I guess in like acting, like in traditional acting, like this kind of acting, there's this thing about not judging your character. The insight is like, don't judge the character, just like advocate for the character. And I think that having this text, like speaking this text now helps me to understand what that really means as a proposal. And also this like conundrum of humanity, of just like being human in this moment. And what I mean is not understanding before, it always felt like a advocacy, the word is advocate. And I was like, well, then it feels like there's another person here, and that's a lawyer. And so I don't understand this triangulation around whatever this character is supposed to be saying or feeling. And in this case, it isn't, it's encapsulated in like one body and like coming through one mouthpiece. And because so much of the piece revolves around the ocean trying to expand Mr. Majority's mind around the possibility that, though his name is Mr. Majority, he's not at the center of the universe, and that like humanity isn't at the center of the universe. Articulating these like value sets and playing this game of trying to like actually just like look at the world from these different places. And I'm like, oh, I see. There's no point in trying, like judgment can't enter because this mouthpiece is speaking to both of these things. So like in the fervor and the fire behind both of these arguments, what then happens? And then it's like remarkable to feel oneself learning a bit about my own value set and the my own limitations around what is here and what is there. And I think that moment, are we doing spoiler alerts? That's okay. It's not
I think you can spoil away.
Okay.
It's okay.
That moment in the piece where they both are so lost, they are forgetting where one ends and where the other begins, like is so incredible. It's like such an incredible realization for beings to have, for organisms to have. I mean, I think especially human organisms, like maybe other organisms are like, where have you been? We know. That there isn't a separation, that there isn't this notion that we exist apart from each other, is just like such a fallacy. Feels really deep.
And I think, Jen, it's so great to hear you talk about that. I think that's what the piece is also trying to do to the audience. In a way, like you used the word expand, you said like what is here versus what is there, like that's a fallacy. And one of the ways I think we're learning that video projection can work, because really it is that the ocean is contained in your body, but the ocean is also contained like on the walls, on the floor. Like your face is suddenly huge, it's suddenly small. And I wonder if we have time, we could just play a little clip of how we're working on the ocean, bringing the audience into themselves by showing a little bit of this stoplight loose jaw. The very first time the ocean is like, actually, let's not be in this global Senate chamber. Let's all come down to this zone of me.
And Katie, do you want to just talk a little about how we worked on that with the mini
Sure.
set, just really quickly, what they're about to see?
Yeah, so one of the ways we're thinking about the set in general is that it will be basically made of video. So it's so as we were on Zoom, our projection designer created a miniature model of what will eventually be our touring set, a very simple model. And then he projected onto that model with a little cutout of Jen what we might be seeing full screen. So that's what you're about to see, I think, in this clip. So go ahead, Sarah.
And it is now 9:01:04 a.m. If the vote is delayed until past midnight, the bill will be declared null and void. You have 15 hours to fill. And is that a long time to talk or a short time to talk? Madam, either way, I have plenty to share. With the you that is 60% water. Can you feel it? Your ocean of self? An ocean more expansive than that winding list of things that makes you who you are. Your addiction to overachieving, your fear of the woods, that anger you hold for that asshole who wronged you. Your memory of that cool night under the stars that almost changed your life. Go deeper. Underneath all those stories. What language did you speak before all that? Deeper. Into your watery self. Deep blue, dark blue, blue, black. All around you. And maybe you feel like you are moving through something invisible and thick. And maybe you hear, and you're like, oh my God, help, what is that? As a missile test explodes somewhere over there. But you don't know it's a missile test. You don't have those words. Because you are a stoplight loose-jawed dragonfish in the mesopelagic zone of me. How far down are we? Well, in human terms, about 1,800 feet. It's cold and totally dark. But that doesn't much matter to you and the blinking red and green lights just below each of your eyes. Bioluminescence, light produced by a living organism. The green light is found on other bioluminescent fish, but your red light is special to you. It's your secret weapon, because red has long wavelengths that most fish down here can't see. So you can switch it on to see the others, but they can't see you. Look at you, swimming, with your long, skinny jaw hanging open. It's almost as big as the rest of your body, and attached to the base of your mouth by a hinge. It's very light, and your hinge means you can tilt your head way back and see what swims in. It might be a flurry of tiny copepods, but sometimes it's something big like a lanternfish. And you have teeth in your throat that latch on to the prey, dragging it backwards into you to be swallowed.
It's amazing how hypnotic that is. And a lot of it is the skip, your music also, and the way
Mhm.
it tracks.
So much of this process has been figuring out how to layer the text, the music, the video, and Jen's performance, and just
Yeah.
really allowing those to exist simultaneously.
Mhm.
It's been a long journey.
I think it would be great to hear about Skip and Lisa, how you all have been working with the music, I think.
Mm. Well, it goes way back to a marsupial musical.
Yeah.
Skip and I wrote a children's musical about a girl who was born with a marsupial pouch. But I love collaborating with Skip. You know, the like little snapshot of what Skip and I do is I get an idea for a song, I write a bunch of lyrics that I don't even think about the scansion or anything. I just write them. I say what I think might be the verse, chorus. I might have a little glimmer of a melody, and then I just hand it over for him to mulch. Does that sound about right, Skip?
That sounds exactly right.
And you know, sometimes it's like one and done. I feel like This Land, the song, the Mr. Majority song, like I like gave you some
Easy.
lyrics and you were like, I know, and we got it done. You know, and then you know, I don't. I'm just. We could go back because we want Skip to demo some of his talents, but I think I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You know, because a song that we're about to show you, which we call the time song, I have 5 or 6 versions here, but
Yeah.
I think we did like 30.
Not even different versions of the same song. They were different songs.
Remember, you create the clock, tick tock. Remember that one? And then there
And
was the
also
one.
the like date, the time.
Oh,
Yeah, I
right,
wrote a
right.
big
The one with the David
Freddie
Bowie
Mercury,
part in the middle. Yeah, there was the
yeah,
Freddie
Queen
Mercury
thing. Yeah, that was
version.
good. Yeah,
This
yeah,
was like the what's Kate Tempest's name
Kate
now?
Tempest.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, is time is a problem, the now of it all, the me of it all. You know, that was like it's like we span genres.
and not only are Lisa and Skip doing every version, Jen is learning
Jen is
every version and performing every version.
I've never been in a play where it's taken this long to nail a song. But
Yeah, and
when
but
that
like
happens, it's because you don't know exactly what the song's supposed to do. But actually, when
yeah.
Lisa got back to the purity of it, you know, this song is just supposed to move, and which
Hmm.
was the first instinct. And uh, I think she intellectualized the process for the song, and I did too. She gave me a slew of words, and I'm like, all right, let's make a good driving beat, and then we nailed it.
Hmm. And like I'll say, I love this version about we have time for Canada but not Ghana. We have time for England. Maybe we'll come back to that.
You
But
have a
this
ton of
this
different
line,
songs you could write with these
yeah,
lyrics.
you look at your watch and punch your own face was a
We
big
did use
part
that.
of, but that is in the song that we'll hear in a minute. So like
Yeah,
pieces
yeah,
of some of the old song wound up in the current one.
yeah.
But you know, Skip is, you know, like Katie and I, we are artists who really like to play and try on good ideas, bad ideas. And you know, we met Skip when we were all working in Austin, Texas in, I'm dating myself, the late 90s. And it was like performance art heaven.
It
And
really
Skip was
was.
really developing this like template and toolkit of sounds that he still uses today. And Skip, we thought you could give us a treat.
I'll just give you what I
Yeah.
like about Lisa is she hires me to write songs because for me, and I'm
For
working on it.
thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right. I do a I what sells me to a lot of people is the kind of sound effects stuff I do. But the thing that I love doing is writing songs, and writing underscoring or even writing an orchestral piece is easier
Mm,
than writing a good song. To me, writing a good song is
mm,
the hardest thing to do because it who knows what makes a good song? It's why is this song good? Why is this one bad? I can't tell you. But this is also a fun aspect of it. You heard some sound effects in some of the clips, and some of it was coming from some of these techniques I developed. And Katie saw me in a club and pulled me aside and said, "I want you to come and do a play with me and Lisa in Minneapolis." So I'll just give you a
mm,
short. A thing I love is using breath in compositions, and I love it for the ocean because It evokes that. It connects. The ocean is a big breathing machine. So
Mhm.
here's how I like to use breath. Here's me imitating the wind with just my mouth. Now I'm going to take, at my feet are a series of guitar pedals. They're pitch shifters. So they're going to take any tone I make and pitch it down again. So becomes. Now I have a series of these pedals and I have reverb. Reverb is makes it sound like you're in a big space like this. So listen to this. That's my little demonstration.
That's awesome, Skip. So one of the ways that we're working with you is not only songs, but
it's
Mhm.
well, it's songs, sound, and underscoring.
yeah.
And in underscoring is someone's talking, like you heard the piano piece in the one clip, and when it really works, they all kind of congeal together, and they help connect they help the audience breathe with the actor. That's how I see it. They connect. They help the breathe. All the sounds and all the underscoring. Sometimes you'll notice them, sometimes you won't, but they should act as a spotlight so you get closer to the actor's speaking their language.
Yeah, and I think those. I mean, I remember those early sounds from all those years ago, and some of them are in the piece now. And I think it's those layers of experience and the trust that we have developed over these years that allows us to think together about the piece, sort of rather as like kind of hierarchical thing, which I really really enjoy. And I just also would like to add that Jen came into my life as a performer, but also as a deviser and as friends with a lot of my devising theater friends. And so I know a lot about Jen's history in as a maker and the way Jen likes to make and play, which is like another aspect of forming a healthy collaborative team.
And I would like to say, as a songwriter, Jen is a very exciting person to work with because of the thought she puts into each line and the analysis. And she even goes, oh, this is like a 90s hip hop thing you're doing. I'm like, oh yes, you're right, actually. Oh, this part of it, this sounds country. I'm like, oh no, you're right. So it's great fun and very deep to work with Jen.
And we're gonna
So
hear
maybe
trying to keep up. It's a lot of dense material coming from all directions, writing and directing and musically. So I'm just trying to keep up. You got to like make little footholds for yourself just to stay conversant.
I think that we could play that time song that Lisa showed all the drafts for and see where we ended up. So Sarah, go ahead and roll that tape.
And I would say even this is in process.
For JM and Emergent X, and I know your human brain needs to organize things into past, future, this, that. Your experience of time is uniquely human and uniquely limiting. Here in the world of Western thinking, everything gets a name and a date, and that name and date makes you feel secure because you know it. You can map it. You can put it in its place and claim it. Look, this Greenland shark is 512 years old. Hanako, the koi fish, lived for 226 years. These glass sponges in the East China Sea, guess how old they are? But what will the glass sponge say when you swim up to it yelling, "Glass sponge, you are incredible! You've been alive for 10,000 years!" Well, it would turn the top of its cup in your direction and say, "Phooey." Because 10,000 years doesn't mean anything to a sponge. Clock the minute, hour, second, urgent, rush it, pronto. Dart, wait, keep the pace, hour hand, second hand, tick-tock, go. ASAP, overdue, expedite. Viable, pliable, gonna be tight. Time's up, right? Lifespan, long years, waiting light. Time is in your tiny mind, racing to the finish line. Who's the leader of the pack? Keep it up, don't look back. Pick up the pace, do the right thing, you're paid for perfection. Glance down at your Rolex, watch it give you an erect. Oh, learn to walk, then write your will, better you don't know. Stop, watch, death, watch, go, go, go. Time is in your tiny mind, racing to the finish line. You're the leader of the pack. Keep it up, don't look back. Time is in your tiny mind, racing to the finish line. Punch the clock, then punch your own face. That's how you run this race. Oh, let's slow it down. Let's step it back. Step it back, feel the flow, so much bigger than what you know. Slow it down, you will see the long, long view so clearly.
Great, so great to see that Sxip, I think we made it.
I think
we made it.
I think it's important though to highlight what Sxip said. Like, this is just the first draft of this. Like, the song is probably there, but
yeah, I still want to get in there and tweak all the sounds. I should have said that, but I really want to tweak them to make it even punchier and
sure. And
she's
also
singing it so well. Yeah,
like Jen learned what you all just heard. Jen had learned like 2 days ago, but I also want to say that video design is really hard to have development workshops in, because it just takes so much time for them to do, for Tal to do what he did, and for us to be able to see it, like for him to have gone through this process with it, means that now, Lisa, you can go back and rewrite based on what you saw. It means Sxip can compose. It means that Jen, you and I, as like directing and performing, understand the world that you're going to be working in, and we don't need to wait all the way to tech.
And I just want to say that name again, Tal Yarden. Like, what a amazing, skilled and experienced collaborator. So again, you're seeing that layering of all of these pieces and parts coming together. And you know, I'm just thinking about how we're at the point in our process where now can get detailed, which is like so amazing. And it took us years to get there. And we really started with this like big expanses, you know, a big idea, like what is the ocean and what is our relationship to it, was where we began. You know, it was a broad inquiry. And then we started drilling down, so to speak, into different ocean ecosystems, processes, species. And then you have me with my lived experience from New Orleans, and Katie, who has made so much work in New Orleans. So it doesn't take long to get to what are the human-made processes and economies that rely on and take advantage of the ocean. You just get there really quickly. The Gulf South, like its economy is very much oil and oil drilling and oil processing. And so then when you get there, it doesn't take you very long to get to the question, who is suffering from any kind of unconscious approach to these human-made economies? And in the Gulf Coast and in so many other countries and places, the answer is that poor people and communities of color are bearing the brunt of this unconscious relationship. And then we're like, great, environmental racism and justice, another huge topic, like as big as the ocean. So we've been trying to figure out how to work these ideas into our script, into an interactive intermission that we have planned, and into our community outreach. And I'll say a little, if we have time, about our specific ideas, but I thought that I would ask our team, because we've been all talking about this together for so long, like, how do you experience this piece as a piece about the ocean? And how do you experience this as a piece about justice? And so I'm just going to kind of throw that out there, and anyone who wants to pick it up and run can give it a shot.
I feel like it starts to broach this question of like it asks us to question so many like human constructs, so many like American constructs and Western constructs, and then it actually begs us to ask about like the construct of justice itself, like um first of all, we have to instill that sense in ourselves, because we seek to defy it, like because we're so out of sync with who we actually are. We've like constructed ourselves away from being in any kind of equilibrium, so we have to then construct a notion in order to get ourselves back, uh, which is like pretty crazy, you know. I think there's a lot of text in the piece about, like, from the ocean's point of view, asking questions, or just like offering a point of view that is like so far outside of what we understand to be true. So that even this notion around justice is like, we only need that because we're so disorderly. And it's really profound to me to think, like, the ocean is like, you say it in the text, Lisa, like the ocean isn't, I don't care about you. And it like took a while for me to understand that notion is like not to say I disregard you, but actually I don't need to be in the practice of caring for you because I'm not out of sync with you. I'm not caring for you. Like similar to this thing around like wellness, like, you know, how can I be well? It's like, wow, that's crazy. What other being has to like investigate that? And it's a treat. But not even every being has access to it. So it's wild to think, what could we be if we weren't constantly having to check in with our notions around justice? Like, what if we were living in right relationship with each other and with the world around us? We even need to ask ourselves this question.
You know, this piece, Mr. Majority's language is amazing to me. It's the language of gentrification, and it's the language of making me. I think about this a lot. I'm from Appalachia, where there's a lot of fracking, and fracking is pushes poison into the ground and destroys water tables. And it was the Democratic Party that was pushing fracking, right? So it's the people I align myself that, and this will, that are creating language, like this froth of language to make most people who are me, educated, white male, liberal, to feel good about what they're doing, saying, you know, I feel good about myself. I recycle, and here, and this thing that happens, it happens in some other country and around, but around me, things are nice. So there's, and so I have been really struck by Mr. Majority, especially how Jen plays Mr. Majority, because Mr. Majority believes his own bullshit. You know, he's a P.T. Barnum that believes his own BS, but and truly believes it, right? And so so much of that's directed at me. Um, a- and so and you know, I'm an artist. I move into neighborhoods. My job in New York City is to make neighborhoods safe for white people. That's my job, because I'm going to move into the neighborhood first. So I always have to challenge myself about these things. And you know, as far as uh you know, I didn't grow up next to an ocean, but I grew up in almost a rainforest of green that's affected by these extraction. It was cold here. There's no economy here, and so you're fighting a losing battle when you push back. But again, this is froth of language incredible froth of language made to make me feel good about myself, whether I'm Republican or Democrat. So I find that aspect of this play fascin- fascinating.
Yeah, I know that we want to invite some of the questions that are showing up in the chat to enter into this conversation, but I will just say that one gift of this pandemic pause that we've been in, like the show's been postponed several times because of it. It's given us a chance to really let these thoughts percolate down and soak in. And so I feel like Jen, I feel like your performance every time we work over Zoom, like we've worked a couple times over Zoom, a few times, like you're inhabiting, the play is inhabiting you, or the way you're in such a right relationship to the play. Like it's just, and every time you perform it, it is in you even more deeply than it was before. And none of that is about like, let's have rehearsal. It's just like the thoughts that are in this play are so much the thoughts that are in our world and that are important to us. And I've been loving witnessing that happen and supporting that as I can.
Yeah, it's a true growing experience, that's for sure. Really still, and especially working on this, shifting to Zoom, working on this during the pandemic, working on this during the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it is really, it's a piece that's writing itself in real time. So yeah, I'm really grateful.
Sarah, do you want to jump in and shoot some questions our way?
Absolutely. Thank you all for that. It was so fun. I'd watched the clips as we were preparing for this presentation, but extra fun to watch them, having y'all contextualize them for this event. So thank you so much for that. This has been an incredible hour. Not even an hour, but the time flies by, and we've got some fantastic questions in the chat. So I'm going to hop right in if that's okay with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question, I actually think this is kind of nice and sort of dovetails with the conversation has been going. Jen, this is a question for you. And we have someone who's asking if there's any material in particular that you read or researched that really stuck with you while you were crafting your character of the ocean for this show. It's a big one.
That's a cool question. So something interesting happened not too long ago. I was having a very brief catch up with a dear friend of mine who in her spare time goes scuba diving. And it was like a very brief conversation. We just hadn't spoken in a while. I was like, how are you? You went on a trip. And so she was telling me about it. And then we said goodbye, and I had a rehearsal over Zoom, actually, like a couple hours later. And so I was doing some ocean text, and Katie was like, wow. It was this stoplight loose jaw dragonfish moment. And Katie was like, wow, that was like, I've never heard it like that before. I was really seeing those things. And I was like, well, it's actually because I just had a conversation with somebody who was describing to me in detail, like not just what she sees when she goes scuba diving, but she loves it so much that her passion and her clarity was like really coming through in what she was communicating to me. And so that gave me this idea, like I should do some ocean research. I didn't say, but I grew up in Baltimore, which is like, I grew up near a harbor. It feels very mitigated by humanity, but we're right on the bay. And so like, I've always felt like such a deep connection to waterways and like love to get in it. And so I was like, this would be, if you think that changed things, like, what if I actually like, if I scuba dived, whatever. If I like, plumb to those depths. And so I had the audacity to take that idea to A.R.T, and they're like into it. So I'm on the verge of like literally and pun intended going really deep in body, which I think for me, I don't know, it just takes a while for stuff to sink in for me. So I think having a sense of what it means to float to maybe brush up against disorientation and to really like understand this, you know, like you see the water line on the horizon and and I, you know, always understand, well, this is water and this is air. And I think it'll be really incredible to start to understand that like it's not like a line on a piece of paper that is separating two different things, but there's like a blend and there's a overlap, and that for creatures that are living below that line that I perceive, that's the same as me living above it. And that's just like a burgeoning consideration for me.
That's actually something I'd never thought about. I'll never be able to look at like a watery oceanic horizon line the same way. Thank you. That's great. Oh, we've got some excellent questions, and I'm afraid that we will not get to everyone, so apologies in advance, but I'll try to plow through as many as we can right now. We've got a great question here that I think is interesting for the whole team, and that's, are any of the scientists with whom you've been working, have any of them responded to this piece? And if so, how are they responding to the piece?
That's a great question. Yes, we've invited scientists to come to readings and workshops, and I would say that one of the people we've been collaborating with most closely is Dr. Peter Gurgis, who is an oceanographic scientist at Harvard. And he got very interested in this interactive intermission that we want to put together, in which we're going to try and bring audiences even closer to the experience using different, almost like mini labs. And one of the ways we're going to be working on this is trying to create an augmented reality heat underwater thermal heat vent that you can view through your phone that kind of appears on the floor of the lobby. And so we have been working with Peter and his graduate students very, very closely to create that effect, and also getting a lot of feedback on the show itself. So I feel like, Katie, the response has been people being really excited and sometimes pointing out some really specific things that we're getting wrong.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
help us. Yeah.
And also helping us solve some logistical problems. Like if Mr. Majority wants to shrink the oceans down, where's all the water going to go? And there was one scientist at Hughes who was like, let me think about that. And then like, he was like, I know, out in space and under the Earth's crust. And, you know, he figured it out for us.
That's awesome. I love that level of collaboration. This might be sadly the last question we have time to answer, but I think it's a great one as well. It's sort of straying away from this piece in particular, but a question about practice. And that's, do any of you have advice for young theater makers who are interested in devising? What advice would you give them?
I might start by saying choose people you like to be around, that you have good energy with, that you feel safe, like saying smart things and stupid things to. And then together come up with a question that you're interested in and have everyone answer it in a different way through a different medium. And just start there and then see what happens.
And I would say, it's easier and easier to find content from lots of amazing devised theaters online now. And I would say, watch as much as you can. Don't be afraid to reach out to those theater companies through their website and ask them questions about their work. Ask them questions about potential for internships. Often these artists are much more approachable than you would think. And so consider it that, like you're not always going to find like a program that is going to teach you this. And so you can create your own program.
That's great advice. Sxip or Jen, anything from either of you?
I would say you use the skills that you have already that are not theatrical, not tying, making recipes, digging a ditch, and use them as the starting point for a new piece of theater. Show me something I don't do, and I'll be interested right away.
And I would say, don't be afraid to be learning in public.
Excellent advice all around. And can you believe that we are at 8:30 on the dot? I think this is a first in behind the scenes history. So applaud for all of the amazing content and sharing, and applaud for being directly on time. Lisa, Katie, Jen, Skip, thank you all so much for joining us tonight for behind the scenes. We are so looking forward to seeing this live, but seeing this snippet of the video was just absolutely moving. And I think we'll do a lot to sustain us in the meantime. So thank you all so much. Thank you everyone at home for watching. We really appreciate all of your support as always. Those of you who are joining us in the green room, don't forget that's on a separate link. You should have received a couple of reminders with that. If you're in a waiting room for a couple minutes, never fear. We just want to give a couple minutes for all of our panelists to get composed before we let you into the room, but I promise you'll get in there eventually. All right, my friends, thank you all so much. I will see you all in the green room.
Bye.
And we'll speak soon. Bye everyone, have a good night.